Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and we are on the eve of the 2.5 anniversary for War of the Visions. Today, we're going to be talking about lightning and snow and the equipment that's going to be releasing with them this week. We're not going to talk about Hope because he is free, and the topic of this video is, should you be pulling for lightning and should you be pulling for snow? Let's go ahead and dig in. First off, as usual, I do need to give a special shout out to the Amazon App Store, who has constantly supported me and invested in me to make both War of the Visions content and Ni no Kuni content. If you are a War of the Visions player, please make sure you're using Amazon coins to support myself and Oran J. You can use our affiliate links, dig.gs/coins. You can find them in the description. We are a huge fan. They will save you 20% on your in-game purchases. They will also support the content creators if you do use our affiliate links. So it is a huge deal. If you aren't already, please make sure to go to dig.gs/coins. You can figure out how to download the Amazon app version of the game. There are instructions for moving your game from iOS or from Google Play Store over to the Amazon App Store. And I honestly just y'all, this is so important to us. Like, if you take 5 minutes to do this, this is just going to make a huge difference for any War of the Visions content creator. So the question is, should you be pulling for lightning? And I think universally lightning is an incredible unit, and let's just go through her kit real quick and talk about this. So first off, we're going to look at her weapon. Now, the weapon, for those of you who are familiar with sword weapons in War of the Visions, we do have the coral sword, which gives lightning attack plus 30 as well as slash attack plus 15. Lightning is a missile and slash unit, which actually synergizes really well with a lot of lightning based units. Her weapon interestingly has assault, vital, and aim. Considering her VC adds critical damage up and critical hit rate up for herself as the global buff, I'm surprised we don't see a critical version of her weapon. So it does make me wonder if in the future, maybe we'll be running some type of crit weapon instead. The other thing to think about too is defense penetration, and we'll talk about the defense penetration in her kit, because her defense pen is very dependent on what type of abilities she does and what type of passive she has set. But the ability on the weapon is going to give her, when it's maxed out, slash attack 15, missile attack 15, and accuracy 15, which is great. Lightning attack 30, which is great, and 30% chance the counter doesn't activate. This is all fantastic. Even if you're a new player coming in, this sword is going to be a really good sword for units like Orlando as well, who's going to be coming out next week. So if you are a new player, this is just a great weapon to farm up and get. Now, in comparison, looking at Lightning's kit here, Lightning is a little bit of an interesting unit. TMR gives attack 30% for 3 turns, cross shape buff, as well as lightning attack 25 for 3 turns. I can see this being good, but again, I don't think this is going to be something you're going to want to invest in. I think maybe for very niche players who are trying to optimize their builds in things like raids or guild raid, would be really good in a lightning comp. Most of the time, though, in lightning comp, you're already going to be hitting your max damage because you have Cloud and Lightning and Esther and all these amazingly powerful lightning units. Mastery is going to increase lightning attack 5 for self, pretty minor actually, and then decrease AP consumption 15. This is where we start to talk about the kind of defense penetration slash resistance penetration. You look at Esther, who is a newer lightning slash unit, right, on the global side, and Esther has a lot of slash resistance penetration and defense penetration, which lightning kind of has, but is very it's very choosy in when she has it. And it like lightning is almost like an Esther that has not as much tankiness, it feels like, unless we're talking about magic damage, or maybe like an Esther, like a sword wielding Esther that is more magic resistant than physical resistance, something like that. We will look at the crit. So she does get 12 crit. Again, really interesting that they're pushing the crit on the VC. You do see she has 20% magic resistance, 10% missile, and 10% slashing, weak to striking. Interestingly, a lot of the times when you get these Final Fantasy tier units, you do have charm resistance, and Snow has charm resistance. Interestingly, though, Lightning does not. Lightning has frostbite and disable resistance, as well as bind slight resistance. So something to consider here as you are looking at her build is it's a very different thing with her as a unit. In terms of her skills, of course, you're going to be setting her initial brand, which gives agility 12%, defense penetration 40. After that, you're really in a situation where there's not a go-to secondary passive. You're probably going to set Viking Lore for attack up and HP up. I could see a case for long range being set because you do want her to use her missile-based barrage-ish ability because it gives defense penetration, but you're looking at literally just in her base kit defense penetration 40. There's no weapon that gives defense penetration. There's no Esper necessarily or vision card that gives her defense penetration. So initially right away, something I'm looking at, she does have a preemptive counter ability, which does increase AP, which I do love. It also has good range and good range height, so we'll be setting that. Looking at her abilities, her primary attack Spark Blow is 3 range. It does have the capability to lower slash resistance by 25%, which is okay. I wouldn't classify it as remarkable. Her secondary buff, Pursuit Preparation, this is something you're going to want to get off every single time. This is going to be what enables the secondary attack, very similar to Noctis, to go off. So it's going to increase slash and missile resistance 25%, which is great, as well as give a 50% damage taken barrier on her. You will want this set every single time. This is kind of what gives her that tankiness, very similar to Esther, and I could see Lightning Brawler being very scary with Esther. Her barrage-like ability that you do want to get is going to be kind of like the end. It's called Asper on here. It does increase defense penetration 40, and it has quite a long range, quite a large AoE, very barrage-esque. I could see, depending on the map, setting up a situation where you have Cloud into lightning, like chain missile attacking the opponent. I could see that being very scary. But it is going to give defense penetration 40, so you do want to get this off, right? Because this ability is what's going to enable Lightning to deal a lot of damage. That defense penetration applies to her missile and her slash-based attacks. So this is almost a requirement, which is why I think that range +1 is going to be really key for her. I think because she has this tankiness to her character, because she has long-range missile attacks, lightning slashing attacks, I think this will be like a really good pull as a character for most people, particularly newer players. I think this is going to be, lightning slash is kind of the bread and butter of the game. Rush Assault, of course, is going to increase agility 25%, accuracy 30, restore AP for 10. Interestingly, this is AoE, so you're going to give accuracy and agility to your allies. The question will be, will she prioritize it? It has 3 casts. Will she spam it in a row? Very curious about the AI here. She has a barrier break, which is ranged, which is nice. And then we have break burst. The thing I really like about break burst right here is it has a 50% chance to inflict slow, which is the same percentage as counter slow, which is extremely high. So you are going to see this slow landing on the opponent, assuming that you land a critical hit. So I can see people trying to build up Lightning's critical hit rate in order to pull this off. In terms of subjobs, her secondary subjob for Knight of Flash, not too interested in it. Does have a break, does give disable, but I'm really more interested in sub sniper for general use, just because it has dispel spread, so it'll dispel buffs, haste, physical damage, and magic damage increase on opponents. Can be very good. I would probably turn everything else off on this, and I would leave this on. Or you could also put on aiming, right, to get that defense penetration 40 as a buff ahead of time. Things to think about here. Her limit burst gives slash attack resistance penetration 40 for 3 turns. It is very high range. It's a slash 200% modifier, and it decreases lightning resistance 38%. This is really powerful. It's really good. It's going to be very powerful in a PvE setting. I just wish she had access to missile resistance penetration, or more, like, I would have preferred to have her with defense. Like, this almost puts her on a level playing field with Esther, but I still feel like Esther is a better unit overall. TLDR for Lightning, puller. I think she's going to be very powerful. We have Thunder God Sid EX coming out. I think a lot of people think Lightning's dead. I've been running a Lightning comp for most of the time, and I've been enjoying it. Lightning is my strongest element, and I honestly think if you're a new player, Lightning is going to be a very powerful unit for you. Talking about Snow. Snow is really interesting. His Tiger Fang ability or weapon is going to give AoE resistance 10 for 3 turns at the start of battle. Also going to give strike attack 15. Interestingly, the AoE resistance is not exclusive to Snow, so you could use this on all striking units, which makes this, in my mind, the best striking weapon for all striking units in the game. You're definitely going to want to go with the Assault for 171. You could go crit. It does have 19 crit on it, but there's nothing really crit focused, I imagine. When I think about Snow, I think about Snow as one of those units who has a really high ceiling. I wouldn't pull for Snow if I was not confident in my ability to pull him off. If I was not confident in my knowledge of the game, if I was not confident in my gear sets, in my trust TMRs, in my vision cards, in my VCs, and my espers, I think a lot of people will pull Snow because he's a Final Fantasy main character, and I think a lot of people will not be able to utilize him because he's going to be a more complicated unit to use. Very similar to Barret, I imagine. Now, he does have HP 5% per self and increased chance of being targeted in his master ability, which is fantastic. Very similar to Lightning, and we're kind of entering an era where we're going to see TMRs buff Ice Attack and Accuracy, which is really nice. So he's going to be able to buff himself and an ally with Ice Attack and Accuracy. Very interesting. It's very similar to the Ice Calculator unit. I can't remember his name, the Crystal Warrior, off the top, Velas, where he can buff haste on a unit and himself. I kind of like this style of buff. I think it's really effective. Taking a look at his stats, Snow does have the charm resistance as well as confusion resistance. Whenever you have charm and confusion resistance, that's very powerful resistances for anything PvE. You do have some really good slash resistance, pierce resistance, and missile resistance, 20%, 15, and 10% respectively. With Snow, though, you are going to run into magic weakness, which is important to consider. However, with the amount of area of effect resistance that he does have in his build, it's possible this magic weakness really isn't as much of a weakness as we kind of think. He does come as well with defense 18 and agility 64. Now, talking about AoE resistance, you don't see any in his mastery ability here, but when we do go to his skills, you'll notice nothing in his passive, but we do have the Tiger Fang, right? Which is going to be increase AoE resistance 10 for 3 turns. We do also have the vision card for Snow is going to be an exclusive buff that is going to give him the AoE resistance as well. We don't know how much that's going to be. I would imagine another 10. You slap another 10 on there, that's like 20 AoE resistance. Looking down at his buffs, he does have a buff that does give him AoE resistance that you are going to want to always use. So this is going to increase strike attack 25, AoE resistance 20, and it's going to give that I'm not sure what we're calling it nowadays, but where you heal yourself when you're below 20% HP, you're going to want to get that off no matter what. So at the bare minimum, you know, without anything else, we're looking at Snow potentially having, you know, 40 AoE resist at the base, which is exceptionally powerful, especially when you factor in he also has defense and that most abilities would be considered AoE based abilities. So he is going to be very tanky. Where he kind of stutters, I would say, is with his counter abilities and with his primary abilities. So you are going to want to set Hero of Fate, which is going to be HP up, defense plus 12. So again, his defense is going to be 40 base right now. If you do set that, along with plus 10 hate for being targeted. After that, you're probably going to either set Shadow Running or Shikuchi. I imagine Shadow Running would be better with the agility 12%, luck 12%. I could see, however, you wanting to set Shikuchi in order to get to the opponent faster, which may depend on your sub job, which we'll talk about here. His counter abilities are not good. There's just no good counter ability for him. Nothing's preemptive, nothing's going to mitigate damage. It's literally just point blank counter with a strike attack. So he's going to be in the face and he's going to be very offensive. And I think about like Tifa, right? Tifa is very powerful and can get in the opponent's face. But a lot of time Tifa's passive counter, which heals her, is very effective. So I wish he had a counter that was reflex oriented or a little preemptive or that had some range. In terms of his primary abilities, Wind Killer 25, damage 126%, has 2 range, not the best. Triple Guard, defense 20, spirit 20, defense debuff resistance 100, so you won't be able to lower his defense. But the reality is his Immortal Spirit is separate from this buff and separate from the other buff, so you're probably going to want him to cast Immortal Spirit along with that job level 25 buff. So you're probably going to be in a situation where you're not casting this. Zone Crush is probably his most important ability. It is an AoE based ability that does 165x modifier. Unfortunately, I think Snow will never be a strong damage dealer. While he is a striking unit, this is his only source of defense penetration in his entire build, unless you're putting defense penetration on a trust rune for him. So that's something you're definitely going to want to factor in here. Granted, it is all striking based abilities, so very few units have high striking unit resistance. Still something to consider though. Impact Break 2 is going to be basically a full dispel, 100% hit chance, 210% modifier, 1 range height, 2 range. Again, all very close range. He does have decreased single target resistance in his off kit, as well as a double strike in his off kit. I think more often or not, you're going to be setting him as sub-pugilist. I think a lot of times you're going to want him to have the like dash in and strike ability from sub-pugilist, so I could see that being pretty important for him. I could also see, you know, setting sub ninja in some situations if you are wanting to utilize him for like slash chaining, but I mean at the same time, like, you're probably never going to use him for that. His LB ignores targets with float status, 200% modifier, 67% chance of stun. It's literally just Tifa's LB. It's not that remarkable. It is good to note that it's like a 3-line AoE from him. But again, I think you're going to really need to make sure you have a solid understanding of how Snow operates and how his abilities are in order to pull him off. He's a very complex unit, so I think most people are maybe going to set Snow and he's just going to like suicide in without dealing any damage. Absolutely possible. I think a lot of people may think they know how to operate Snow, and then he's going to get like stuck or like having to go around because he doesn't have enough jump, or they didn't set Shikuchi. There's just a lot that can go wrong with him. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please remember, if you do want to support me, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins, as one of the best ways to support me. And I hope you guys are going to be with me when we do, when the patch goes live, because we will pull for both Lightning and Snow personally. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a good rest of your day.